Okay, are you all able to hear me now? Maikai, hiki ke ho'olohe o maikai. So we're going to talk about again the continuity of Aihea ke ea o ka mele. Yeah, where is the spirit of the mele? Yeah, and again, there's ea to everything, and that question came in a reflection to Aihea ka mana o ka mele, Aihea ka pono o ka mele. All of these are reflection of mele and the deeper understanding. Also, the deeper writing, the hakuana o ke ia mau mele. These mele are, you know, tied into so many things, and that's the pilina o ka mele. So, I hear ka pono o ka mele, I hear ka ea o ka mele, I hear ka mana o ka mele, I hear ka pilina o ka mele. How are these mele tied together? How are these things? It's so intricate. It's so deep. And to study them, well, that's our mission in this Papa Mele me ka mo'olelo a me ke kuhi a ka lima. And I haven't forgotten the question that I asked all of you. What is your motion for pono? What is your motion for pono, the perfect order? And we're going to get to that. But in reflecting Ahia ka ea o ka mele, I have to reflect. Aya I ka olelo ke ola, aya I ka olelo ka make. There in the language is life, there in the language is death, there in the language is a blessing, there in the language is a catastrophe. This is an old ancient Olelo no Eo reflecting the authority of the language. And so the first thing I like to reflect, now you all wrote your papers, this is just my reflection of everything. Aia I kapilina I ke akua, aia I kapilina I na aumakua, aia I kapilina I na kupuna, aia I na aia I kapilina me ka aina, aia I kapilina me na kanaka. That's one reflection of Ahia ke ea o Kamelea in the connection that we have to Akua, in the connection that we have to our aumakua and our kupuna, in the connection that we have to our land, our aina, in the connection that we have to one another, kanaka, kekahi e kekahi. This is part for me of Aihea ke ea o Kamele. To understand Aihea ke ea o Kamele, we have to have these really deep and profound connections. There must be a connection to Akua. There must be a connection to Aumakua, to Kupuna, to aina, and to fellow man. I think the word is ohana, this cooperative system of integral parts of everybody working together, being connected, yeah, in this great spiritualism that we refer to as the pono. Aya ika olelo, we've said that before, ika olelo keola, ika olelo kamake. But aya ina hua olelo. And I love that word, aya ina hua olelo. You know, hua to fruit, right? And aya ina hua olelo, the fruits of our words. You know, individual words carry great ea, they carry great pono, they carry great mana. Choosing those right words, ika ho'o haku ana o ke ia lei o ka olelo, ke ia lei o ka hua olelo, that even adds more to the ea, the mana, and the pono, of course, of the mele. And looking, understanding, connecting to these words. There are many words. Mana, one of them, pono, one of them, ea, one of them, deep words that impart not one, two, three meanings, but many meanings. You know, the mana of those words, the pono of those words are in the translation. Imagine that one word, 5 meanings, 10 meanings, multiple meanings, multiple mana, multiple pono, multiple ea, with single words. And as we use these single words and we ho'ohaku haku, we weave them and we format them into the mele, that even adds more authority to the mele. Aya i ka uluana ka mana'o. So aya i ka hakuana o ka mele, I've already spoken of that. Aya i ka uluana ka mana'o. Inspiration. Inspiration. No ke akua mai, from the akua. No na aumakua mai, from the aumakua. No na kupuna mai, from the grandparents. No ka aina mai, from the aina. No nakanaka mai, from relationships. No nakanaka mai, from fellow man. We know that is all inspiration. We write about children. We write about parents. We write about sweethearts. Inspiration, no ke kumai, coming from God. I mean, God as the kumu, yeah, the kahua, the foundation, the purpose for all of this writing. I want to interject a story here about when I wrote my first mele. And this mele happened just to be a hymn. And no ka mahalo, a me ku'aloha no ke akua. And at that time, when I completed this hymn and this mele, and I was able to sing it, I sang it for my kupuna wahine, my tutu wahine, my grandmother. And there were several grandmothers in our family that were there, all related, and they were all sitting on the kitchen table. And I went and I presented them with this mele. And they looked at the paper and they listened to me sing it, and they had a little discussion, you know. And at the end of that discussion, Tutupine turned to me and said, you know, Kawai Kapu, your hakumele is going to be blessed. And she said to me, I would like to say that it is going to be so blessed that you are going to be given an abundance of ike within this tradition of hakumele. So I looked at all the kupuna and I asked Tutupine, why is that? And she said, well, simply, your first mele, you chose to honor Akua. By honoring Akua, you will receive the blessings from Akua. She said, by honoring Akua, you honor your kupuna and your aumakua, you honor your aina, you honor your family. And because of that, yeah, all that you do from here on in will be blessed. And then the kupuna said a prayer, and that was the beginning of kahakuano ona mele o ke ia mo'opuna alako o ia ho'i o kawai kapuokalani. And from then on, yeah, those words came true. Because it is a passion, it is a love, it is inspiration. There are so many things that have come from the tradition of hakumele. Aya i ka no'eau. Aya i ka no'eau in the skill. Skill. Skill comes from training. And that's aya i ke kumu, there with the teacher or the teachers. To hua, to fruit in this tradition of mele, there must be a lineage, a descent, a line. Remember when we talked about the numbers? So number 1 is the first teacher, okay? Number 1 teaches number 2, which is the second teacher. So now number 1 influenced number 2. Number 1 moves on to the next dimension. Number 2 now has the knowledge. It goes to number 3, the next student, or 3 and 4. And in this way, this knowledge trickles down, yeah? Hanini mai maaluna mai, yeah? Iliki pū me ka ua, ue kalani o la kahonua. Ue kalani o la kahana, ke kuliana, ke kumuhana o na hakumele. Yeah. So like the rain being the knowledge that trickles down from teacher to teacher to teacher. So no'eau, skill, yeah, comes from, of course, a good teacher. A good teacher comes from a good lineage. Still, though, yeah, with all that skill, and with teaching from the kumu, aya ikahana mau, there has to be some dedication, commitment, continuity to the tradition. Aya ikahana mau, because we know from hana mau no, ike mau no, the more you do it, the more ike comes. Life experience, knowledge from life experience. The no'eau comes from the training, that no'eau comes from the kumu, your continual doing, your dedication, your practice, your commitment, and then you have the ike that comes from the life experience. That is all a part of aya ika ho'oma kaukau in preparation. And again, relating back to my story, I had good teachers. Back at that time, Antipilahi Paki was alive and well and willing to help. My connection to Antipilahi Paki was through the Ko'olau Poko Hawaiian Civic Club in Kaneohe. Antipilahi Paki would come and give language lessons to the members of the Ko'olau Poko Hawaiian Civic Club. At an early age, I kind of just pili to these things. I was just connected. And I would go with my grandmother and I would sit for hours and hours and hours. Ika ho'olohe ana ika olelo ki ia kupuna o iho i o pilahi paki. Maika ikono olelo, her words were very, very beautiful. And ina he ninau ka'ua, ninau no, ninau aku au, iaia me ka'u mau ninau e pili ana no ka'olelo Hawaii. And how oli oya e panimai ana ia'u. Especially, in that time of class when I would ask her questions, very happy to answer. Of course, with my own kupuna, yeah, Wahine Ali Ikanae and her sisters, they're all olelo Hawaii and my uncles, so asking questions and learning these different things. And that's all part of the ho'oma kaukau, the preparation. The preparation for what? The time when I actually was going to go through the training to receive the skill, the knowledge, yeah, from the kumu. And that kumu, of course, was Auntie Emma DeFries. All right. Aya I Kamanava. Aya I Kamanava. There in the heart, the very essence, the soul, the being, yeah, that's where the ea is. Also because you have that passion, you just feel that this is you know and understand. Aya I Kamanava. You have affection for this, yeah. You have this great affection, yeah. You are enchanted, perhaps, by all of this. And this is what drives you through that whole process. Aya I Ka'ake, the ake, the liver, the desire, the want, yeah. In a sense, the need, yeah. And so there it is. And here you are. You are amongst these wonderful people and you have this desire, you have this need. What drives that? All of it drives that. What drove me to want to write a song? All of this drove me to want to write a song. That was my inspiration. And being amongst these kupuna was, I have to say, also key, because I had at my fingertips these resources that were not only akamailoa iloko o na mea Hawaii, they lived, yeah, practicing na mea Hawaii, and they were able to assist, guide, yeah, me along the way of Hakumele. And finally, Aya I Ke Aloha. Aya I Ke Aloha. The aloha that reflects responsibility. The aloha that reflects the responsibility. Aloha aku, aloha mai. My aloha to you and your aloha to me. The shared experience. Not just I give and give, or you give and I. No, it's a shared experience. And when I speak about that, I speak about the embracing of all these kupuna who embraced me all of my life through this process until one by one, in the natural process, they all left and passed away. It was hard. I have to say it was very, very hard because the strength that they brought was uncomparable. Like I said, when I gave you the story about Halalu, and I told you about all the people that called the radio station and asked the question, "Oh, Mele, what kind of song is this?" People don't eat lomi halalu. Nobody eat lomi halalu. People called with Lili because the song was so popular back then. And who responded? I didn't have to respond. The kupuna responded. And that's their kuleana. That's their kuleana. If I am that child that they have chosen to impart that ike, that no'eau, yeah, then they are going to stand behind, everything that they have taught me. And of course, our kupuna said, "Oh, we eat lomi halalu. Nui no ka ohana I noho ihe e ia, a aino lākou I ka lomi halalu, ho o hui ia me ka limu kohu, me ka ni oi, me ka hā ute ute, me ka ina mona me na mea ono, aino mākou I ka halalu, lomi ia, me ke ia mau mea, aino me ka poi." Well, of course, then that settled that. Because when people think you stand alone and don't realize that a whole army is behind you, it's easy to ho'ohala. But when you have that support, that kako'o, then it becomes a uniquely different story. And then we come to the final thing, ayano ike kuleana. There in the inheritance, and we're talking about blood inheritance. You inherit from the blood. So do I come from a lineage of composers, hakumele, and then I could go down the list of all my aunts and uncles and relations that, of course, through the process of many, many, many years, were known to be hakumele. And again, they also ku pono ina mea kāko'o, they stand and support, because when you're opio, you naturally will look for the elders to guide your process. I never look for my brothers and sisters to guide my process. I will look to the people that I knew and understood the process. Ho'opile aku au no ia lākou, I patterned myself after them. Hahai no au no ia lākou, and I followed them. Hahai no au no ia lākou, nakaha'i mai ana o lākou ia'u. I followed them because I wanted them to talk to me. And they did. And everything was explained. Kawehewehe ana kamana o pile ana no ke la kuleana I loko o ki ia kuleana o ka hakumele. Kuleana. Kuleana is responsibility, the responsibility that comes with such a great tradition. But kuleana is also the birthright. So having this pilina, this blood relationship to the tradition through those kupuna, yeah, who had haku ina mele. E ku sweet lei poina ole ea lei nani I kavekiu. I was in the room when Auntie Emma DeFries wrote that. I was sitting at her feet during that whole process. I was there. uh, Learning my Oli and my chanting from Auntie Emma DeFries in our own living room in Kaneohe. Aloha mai e ke akua I loko o kalani. E kalani kau I ke alane. I learned from mouth to mouth. I had my notebook while I was writing it in case I po'ina. On the spot, she would compose, and these compositions would become the Oli I now do. That's kuleana. That's responsibility. That's also birthright. When Auntie Kau'i Zudemeister, my grandma's cousin, got up and danced, Nani vale na pua leika ilima. You're in the presence of history. All these great composers had a hand in my life. And so that's where the final, for me, Aya Aihea ke ea o ka mele, comes in when I say Aya ike kuleana. So, recap, Aihea ke ea o ka mele, Aya i ka olelo ke ola, Aya i ka olelo ka make, Aya i ka pilina I ke akua, Aya i ka pilina I nā auma akua, Aya i ka pilina I nā kupuna, Aya I nā hua olelo, Aya i ka haku ana o ka mele, Aya I ka ulu ana I ka manao, Aya I ka no'e au, Aya I ka ike, Aya I ke kumu, Aya I ka hana mau, Aya I ka ho'o mākaukau, Aya I ka manawa, Aya I ka ake, Aya I ke aloha. Aya no ke ea o ka mele.